5 mistakes people make when starting Japanese minimalism. Have you ever wondered why some people seem to master Japanese minimalism so effortlessly while others struggle and eventually give up? What if we told you that most beginners make the same 5 crucial mistakes that sabotage their entire journey from day one? Today, we're diving deep into something that's been on our minds for a while. Japanese minimalism has taken the world by storm, and for good reason. It's not just about having fewer things, it's about creating a life that feels lighter, more intentional, and genuinely peaceful. But here's the thing that nobody talks about enough. Most people who try to embrace this lifestyle end up making some pretty common mistakes that can completely derail their progress. We've been studying this approach for years now, and we've noticed the same patterns over and over again. People get excited, they dive in headfirst, and then they hit these invisible walls that make them want to throw in the towel. The good news? Once you know what these mistakes are, they're totally avoidable. So let's jump right in and talk about the 5 biggest mistakes people make when starting their Japanese minimalism journey, and more importantly, how you can sidestep them completely. Mistake number 1, going too fast and decluttering everything at once. This is probably the biggest mistake we see, and honestly, it makes perfect sense why people do it. You watch a video or read about minimalism, you get that spark of motivation, and you want to transform your entire space in one weekend. We get it. That energy feels amazing, and you just want to ride that wave. But here's what actually happens when you try to declutter everything at once. You start strong, maybe you tackle your closet and feel great about donating half your clothes. Then you move to the kitchen, and suddenly you're second-guessing every single item. Do you really need that pasta maker you've used twice? What about those fancy plates you only use for special occasions? By the time you get to your books or sentimental items, you're completely overwhelmed and emotionally drained. Japanese minimalism, at its core, teaches us about gradual change and mindful decision-making. The concept of kaizen, which means continuous small improvements, is fundamental to Japanese culture. When you try to do everything at once, you're actually going against this principle. Your brain needs time to adjust to each change, to understand what it truly misses and what it doesn't. Instead of the all-or-nothing approach, try focusing on one small area at a time. Maybe start with your bathroom medicine cabinet or your desk drawer. Spend a week with that change before moving on to the next area. This gives you time to really understand how each decision affects your daily life, and it builds your confidence for bigger changes down the road. Mistake number 2, focusing only on getting rid of stuff instead of understanding the why. This mistake ties closely to the first one, but it's more about mindset than speed. We see so many people who think Japanese minimalism is just about having fewer possessions. They start counting items, setting arbitrary limits, and basically turning it into a competition with themselves or others they see online. But authentic Japanese minimalism runs much deeper than just having less stuff. It's rooted in concepts like ma, which refers to the beauty of empty space, and wabi-sabi, which finds beauty in imperfection and impermanence. These aren't just pretty concepts, they're ways of thinking that completely change how you relate to your possessions and your space. When you only focus on getting rid of stuff, you miss the opportunity to really understand why you accumulated so much in the first place. Maybe you shop when you're stressed, or perhaps you hold on to things because they represent a version of yourself you hope to become someday. Without addressing these underlying patterns, you'll likely find yourself slowly accumulating things again, even after a big decluttering session. The real transformation happens when you start asking yourself deeper questions. Instead of, do I use this enough to keep it, try asking, does this item align with who I am right now? Or does having this in my space bring me peace or create mental clutter? These questions help you develop a more intuitive relationship with your possessions that will serve you long term. Mistake number 3, trying to copy someone else's minimalist setup exactly. Social media has made this mistake incredibly common, and we totally understand why it happens. You see these gorgeous, perfectly curated minimalist spaces online, and you think, that's it, that's exactly what I want my home to look like. So you try to recreate it down to the smallest detail, buying the same furniture, the same storage solutions, even the same decorative items.
Here's the problem with this approach. What works beautifully for someone else might feel completely wrong in your life. That person might work from home and need a completely different setup than someone who's rarely home during the day. They might live in a different climate, have different hobbies, or simply have different aesthetic preferences that have developed over years of thoughtful curation. Japanese minimalism is deeply personal and highly individual. The goal isn't to achieve some universal standard of minimalism. It's to create a space and lifestyle that supports your specific needs and values. This means your minimalist setup might look completely different from what you see online, and that's not just okay, it's actually ideal. Instead of copying someone else's setup, use those inspiring images as a starting point for understanding what appeals to you. Maybe you love how calm and uncluttered their living room looks, but you realize you need more storage for your art supplies or books. Maybe their all-white aesthetic appeals to you, but you know you need more color to feel energized. Take the principles that resonate with you and adapt them to fit your real life.
Mistake 4. Thinking it's all or nothing. You're either minimalist or you're not. This is such a limiting belief, and it stops so many people from even starting their journey. Somehow, we've created this idea that minimalism is like a club with strict membership requirements. You either own less than 100 items and live in a perfectly sparse space, or you're not a real minimalist. This kind of thinking is not only unrealistic for most people, but it's also completely contrary to the flexible, adaptive nature of Japanese culture. The truth is, minimalism exists on a spectrum, and your place on that spectrum can change depending on your life circumstances, your needs, and your personal growth. A minimalist approach for a family with young children is going to look very different from minimalism for a single person living alone. Someone who works in a creative field might need more supplies and materials than someone with a desk job, and that's perfectly fine. Japanese philosophy embraces the concept of shikata ga nai, which roughly translates to "it cannot be helped" or accepting what cannot be changed. This includes accepting that your version of minimalism might not look like the picture-perfect versions you see online. Your life has unique demands, and your minimalist practice should adapt to serve those demands, not fight against them. Rather than worrying about whether you are a minimalist enough, focus on whether your choices are moving you toward or away from the peace and clarity you're seeking. Some seasons of life might require more possessions, more complexity, or more flexibility. The key is maintaining that underlying intention of thoughtfulness and purposefulness regardless of how many items you own. Mistake 5. Ignoring the mental and emotional work that goes with physical decluttering. This final mistake might be the most important one, and it's the one that catches most people completely off guard. They expect the physical act of decluttering to automatically lead to mental clarity and emotional peace. While there's definitely a connection between our external environment and our internal state, the relationship isn't as simple or automatic as many people assume. When you start removing physical clutter from your space, you often uncover emotional clutter you didn't even realize was there. That box of old photos might bring up feelings about past relationships or missed opportunities. Clearing out clothes might force you to confront changes in your body or lifestyle that you haven't fully processed. Even something as simple as organizing books can bring up feelings about goals you've abandoned or interests you've outgrown. Japanese culture has always recognized the deep connection between our external environment and our inner world. This is why practices like tea ceremony or flower arranging are considered forms of meditation. They use physical actions to cultivate mental and spiritual states. When you approach minimalism only as a physical practice, you're missing out on its deeper transformative potential. The most successful people we've seen in their minimalism journey are those who treat it as both an external and internal practice. They give themselves permission to feel whatever emotions come up during the process. They might journal about what they discover, talk to friends or family about their feelings, or simply sit with the discomfort that sometimes comes with letting go of things that represent past versions of themselves. These 5 mistakes are incredibly common, and if you've made some of them, you're definitely not alone.
The beautiful thing about understanding these pitfalls is that once you're aware of them, you can navigate around them and create a much more sustainable, fulfilling minimalism practice. Remember, Japanese minimalism isn't about achieving some perfect state and then maintaining it forever. It's about developing a more conscious, intentional relationship with your possessions, your space, and ultimately your life. It's a practice that grows and evolves with you, adapting to your changing needs while keeping you grounded in what truly matters. Take your time, be patient with yourself, and remember, the goal isn't to impress anyone else with how minimal you can go. The goal is to create a life that feels lighter, more peaceful, and more aligned with your values. And that's a journey that's worth taking slowly and mindfully. What resonates most with you from these mistakes? Have you found yourself falling into any of these patterns? We'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe if this was helpful. We've got so much more to share about creating a more intentional, peaceful lifestyle.